Welcome back to another episode of Tony's podcast. Today we're delving deep into a topic that has troubled humanity for millennia: the fight for land. Why do people fight for land? How do they justify these conflicts? From Israel-Palestine to Kashmir, South Africa to Crimea and even Hawaii. These battles seem never-ending. At the root of these struggles is something ancient and primal, our tribal mentality. We'll explore how the tribalism is linked to the reptilian part of our brain and ultimately how it connects to the concept of fallen angels. Let's start with the basics. Why do people fight for land? Historically, land has been synonymous with survival. Our ancestors depended on fertile ground to grow food, build shelters, and raise families. Today, land still represents power, resources, and identity, but beyond these practical reasons, there is a psychological aspect deeply embedded in the human psyche. Something we'll explore by looking at 5 major conflicts: Israel, Palestine, Kashmir, South Africa, Crimea, and Hawaii. The conflict between Israel and Palestine is often framed as a struggle over land, but at its heart, it's about identity, history, and religious connection. Both sides claim historical and spiritual rights to the land. For Jews, Israel represents their ancestral homeland, a place of biblical promise. For Palestinians, it is the land of their ancestors, where they have lived for centuries. But how do these claims justify the ongoing violence? It's the narrative that each side constructs, one that roots itself in thousands of years of history, faith, and cultural identity. Each narrative paints the other side as an intruder, a threat to their very existence. In the minds of the people fighting, they are not just defending land, they are defending their tribe, their way of life. Now let's move to Kashmir, a region claimed by both India and Pakistan. The roots of this conflict are also ancient, involving a complex mix of religious identity, colonial history, and strategic interests. Kashmiris themselves are caught in the middle, as two nations justify their claim to the region using historical treaties, demographic realities, and religious narratives. Both sides invoke the security of their people as justification, much like tribes would guard their territories against encroachment. This conflict is kept alive by tribal instincts, a them versus us mentality that sees compromise as betrayal and possession of the land as a matter of national honor. South Africa struggle over land goes back to colonial time, when European settlers seized land from the indigenous population. During apartheid, land became a tool of racial segregation and oppression. Today, the land issue persists as black South Africans demand the return of land seized during the colonialism and the apartheid. The justification here is clear. It's about correcting historical injustices and reclaiming what was forcibly taken. Yet even as the land reform movement gains momentum, it reveals another layer of tribalism, the division between races, classes, and historical narratives. It's a fight to restore dignity, to reconnect with ancestral lands, a deeply rooted tribal impulse. Next, we looked at Crimea. In 2014, Russia annexed Crimea from Ukraine, claiming that it was historically and culturally Russian. This move sparked international outcry, but many Russians saw it as a rightful reunification of lost territory. Here, land isn't just about geography, it's about national pride, cultural identity, and strategic advantage. The justification employed by both sides hinges on history and self-determination. Russia argues it's reclaiming what was once theirs. Ukraine insists on the sanctity of its borders. Underlying this dispute is the tribal mentality, the desire to protect what belongs to one's nation, tribe, or identity group. Lastly, let's turn to Hawaii. The Hawaiian Islands, once an independent kingdom, were annexed by the United States in 1898. The annexation is viewed by many native Hawaiians as an illegal occupation, resulting in the loss of their sovereignty, culture, and control over their ancestral lands. Today, the fight in Hawaii is not just about land ownership, but about identity, cultural preservation, and self-determination. Native Hawaiians are calling for the return of land that were taken from their ancestors. They view the continued military presence, real estate development, and tourism as a continuous of colonial exploitation. Here, the justification for the fight is about reclaiming a stolen heritage, preserving cultural identity, and protecting sacred lands. The Hawaiian land struggle is deeply tied to the idea of aloha aina, love for the land, which forms the core of native Hawaiian values. Once again, we see the tribal mentality at play, driving the desire to protect what belongs to one's people. What do all these conflicts have in common? They are fueled by tribalism, an ancient mentality that divides the world into us and them. The mentality is hardwired into what scientists call the reptilian part of our brain. This primitive brain governs our instincts for survival, dominance, and territoriality. In the context of land disputes, it drives people to see others as threat to their resources and way of life. Tribalism is not just about physical survival, but psychological comfort. When we fight for land, we fight for a place where our beliefs, culture, and identity can thrive. We fight to protect the familiar, to ensure the continuity of our tribe. This tribal mindset clouds our ability to see others as equals, fueling conflicts that can last for generations. Now let's take this one step further. In many spiritual traditions, fallen angels are seen as beings that embody rebellion, pride, and a desire for dominion. The tribal mentality, with its focus on dominions, exclusion, and control, resonates with the characteristic often attributed to these fallen angels. It's almost as if this reptilian brain, this primal part of us, is influenced by forces that thrive on division and conflict. When people fight for land, justifying their actions through historical claims, religious beliefs, or national pride, they often succumb to these lower impulses. The fallen angels, as symbols of pride and rebellion, represent the darker side of our nature, the part that rejects unity, harmony, and peace. It is as if these ancient conflicts are battles not just over land, but over the human soul. So why do people fight for land? Because it's just not land they are fighting for. It's identity, history, and survival. Our tribal mentality, rooted in the reptilian brain, push us to see others as threats and land as something that must be defended at all costs. This mentality is deeply imagined, it echoes the struggle of fallen angels. a battle between our higher inspiration for unity and the darker instinct of division and dominance. But recognizing this truth gives us a choice. We can acknowledge the tribal impulses within us and choose a different path, one of dialogue, understanding, and coexistence. Only then can we hope to break the cycle of conflict that has plagued humanity for so long. Thank you for joining me in this exploration. If you found today's episode thought-provoking, please share it with others. Let's keep the conversation going. Until next time, stay curious, stay compassionate, and let's strive for a world where we can coexist in peace.